we've spent a lot of time together over the years. We've had many experiences. We're 65 years apart, and we're still best friends, and I think that's really cool. To this day, we still talk almost every single day on the phone, even when I'm in Texas and you're in Minnesota.
The important part is don't dismiss anybody. Everybody has got a potential. And if you got somebody that needs a touch or needs some encouragement, take that opportunity. Take it every time you see it. And I think the encouragement for those and for others is that we still have an opportunity to make a difference in our lifetime, even though that we're in the last phase of our life. And take every opportunity that you have to make a difference in somebody else's life.
Welcome, everyone, to the One Pebble podcast. Today, I took over the captain seat for my mom. I am going to be hosting myself, Harris Duininck, with a very special guest, my grandfather, Harris Duininck. And I don't know, but I think this might be one of the first times a podcast is hosted and we're interviewing a guy with the same name. So I'm super excited about that. We have a very special relationship. We're going to tell some really cool stories and just have a really genuine conversation with a grandfather and a grandson. I hope you guys enjoy the interview today, and thank you for joining us, Grandpa.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're certainly right about the fact that our relationship started a long time ago, and the interesting part of it is that your grandmother and I got the call from your dad that they had a baby boy, and we couldn't wait to get to the hospital to see what it was. And when I got there, your mother said to your dad, "Tell him what we named him." And she told me, and I said, "You shouldn't do that. For goodness sakes, you don't have to hang that name on him." And she said, "Well, that's what we're going to do." And so I went home, and at noon that day, I said, I'm going back to the hospital and see if I can talk her out of that name. I walked into her room, and she said, "If you come here to change my mind, you can make a 180 and go back to your office." And after that was the last time that I questioned whether or not that name was the right one, because we've had so much fun through our lifetime up until this time, and I'm proud of it. So that was a good move from a standpoint of her naming the same that I was.
And how do you feel about that now?
Good. I feel good. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Do you think she made a mistake not changing it?
No, she did not. No, it was something that I had to accept. I never expected, of course. So
yeah. Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, we've spent a lot of time together over the years. We've had many experiences. We're 65 years apart, and we're still best friends, and I think that's really cool. To this day, we still talk almost every single day on the phone, even when I'm in Texas and you're in Minnesota, and I think that's really special. What do you think was a catalyst for that relationship of grandfather-grandson?
Well, I'm not sure that I can answer that question, but certainly the fact that we lived as close as we did from you, I so often I would think, if I was going to go on a trip that day, a day trip, and I was going to go alone, I quite often would think, who could go with me? So quite often I'd call your mom and I'd say, even when you were probably 4 or 5 years old, would you go along? And you always accepted. And so we spent a lot of time with that. And then as you grew up, there were so many things that we had in common from a standpoint of interest, it seemed like. Because anytime I asked you want to do this or do that, you always accepted. So that was interesting. And that was fun for me. When I had time, you had time. So.
In 2013, we went from friends to business partners. And I think you coined that slogan a little bit. Tell the audience a little bit about what that was and how you came up with that wonderful idea that we participated in.
Well, it was pretty interesting. Of course, I have been in business all my life. And, the business life sometime is different than what kids think it is. And I thought, it'd be kind of cool if Harris and I could do something together on a business nature. So I decided that we'd go into the cattle business together. And you were 9 years old when that happened, I think, when we had that idea. And so I had a friend of mine living north of New London that had Red Angus cattle, and that was really an interesting breed for me. I thought that was nice to think about. Maybe if we're going to do something, we do it with Red Angus cattle. So I don't know if I asked you to do it or whether I told you we were going to do it. I'm not sure. But at 9 years old, we decided to do this. And I was of the opinion if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're going to buy registered Red Angus cattle, not just Red Angus cattle. And so there was a company out of Montevideo, Minnesota, that had a sale going on the first week in December of that particular year. So I had their catalog, and they were selling 19 or I think it was close to 100 Red Angus bred heifers. And I said, here's the catalog at 9 years old. You decide what you want. You take a look at the different cattle and which ones you'd want. And we'll go down to the sale and we'll buy some. So we went there, and you looked at me and you said, well, how much can I pay for them? And we set a level as to what you were going to pay for them. And so you would pick the numbers that you wanted. We decided we were going to buy 3 of them. And you went along, and all of the cattle went above what we wanted to pay. And you looked at me and you said, Gramps, we ain't going to get any here if we're not wanting to pay more money. And I said, well, stick with it. And after the sale was over, you bought 3 cattle for the same price as we said we were going to pay. But the only reason that was going on, that happened, is the auctioneer was watching you, and every cow that came up, you'd go to $3,500 and stop. But before the sale was over, he sold you 3 cattle.
He saw that little hand raising in the air, and when it got to 35, I think he just said sold.
Yeah.
I don't know if my mom's ever done that one before.
I don't know.
Do you think she's done that in her career?
I doubt it. I think I was first.
That was the first time.
Yeah.
And then through that experience, we kept the cows for another 9 years, and we really grew our herd together. I have so many memories of going to the farm, lots of Saturdays, hanging out there, watching the cows being born, feeding them, making sure that we had the feed, learning how to run the skid loader, transporting them and selling them. And through that experience, I just learned so much valuable lessons about business, about life, about responsibility and hard work. And I'm really thankful for that. Do you have any memories or stories that you want to share about our experience together?
Yeah, there's one that really comes to mind that was really interesting. We had a hay field where we were baling our hay for the winter feeding area time. And the hay that year was really good, and there was so many bales out there. And I said to you, we've got to stack those at the end of the field, and I'll never get it done with one skid loader. So I secured another skid loader. You had never gotten in one, I don't think, prior to that time. And I put you in a skid loader and I in a skid loader, and we moved all of those bales, and I think it took us about 2 days to do it. But we finally got, as we were going along, you got pretty good at it. And then the competition started to come up. How many bales could you haul in an hour, and how many bales I could? And I remember that. And you did such a nice job after a period of time doing that.
I think you gave me the faster skid loader.
That's possible.
I think that's what happened. Well, I just wanted to preface with our relationship so the listeners kind of knew what it's like to be grandfather, grandson, Harris Duininck's, and to also be business partners. It's such a unique relationship that we have that I'm so thankful for. And I'm really thankful for all the time you invested in me and just the moments that we've been able to celebrate together and the moments we've been able to share.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty interesting you asked that. Of course, I think you probably had more people that said, really? To you when you told them that your name was Harris Duininck, because I had so many relationships out there, and most of them were good ones. But I'm sure that somebody thought, I don't know about that guy. But anyhow, I've been, after a period of time, after I was surprised that you were named after me, I was grateful, and I'm grateful to today for this.
There was times when I would be at local restaurants, and I remember one specifically. I was here in Spicer, and I introduced myself to someone, and I said, I'm Harris Duininck. And they thought I didn't. They said, I thought I didn't have to deal with that guy anymore. And I said, you got another 65 years of me.
Interesting.
It's pretty good. But yeah, no, I want to talk a little bit more about your career and kind of how you grew up and what values were instilled in you from your parents. So that would be my first question is, what did you see in your parents that you really appreciated or emulated, or how did they teach you to become the man you are today?
Well, when I think back about that, and this question has come before, my parents were extremely dedicated to their family. And both of my parents were very hardworking individuals, and that was instilled in us as children. The other thing is the whole business of integrity and honesty. Make sure you tell it the way it is. And that stuck with me for a long, long time, and it still does today. Do things right. If you do it right, you don't have to question your decision. So that's and then from a faith standpoint, they were very conservative from a standpoint of their religious faith, and that example at the home and throughout my lifetime at their house, under their direction, was always toward the business of making sure that you honor God and you establish that position with Him, and you'll find out that life will be a lot easier.
That's really great. And your grandpa was a first-generation American. He came.
My grandfather, who I did not know, my grandfather died when my dad was 12. So I never had a granddad on both sides of my family. So that was important for me once I realized that I could be of some value and some influence for my grandchildren, and I have 8 of them. That was always a challenge for me.
Wow. So you grew up in Princeburg, Minnesota, a very rural community, a very religious community. How do you think that influenced or impacted your childhood and how you grew up and how you view the world?
Well, Princeburg, of course, being as religiously conservative as it is and continues to be to this day, was a very positive influence in my life. That doesn't mean that we lived necessarily in a bubble, like a lot of people feel that people with that type of commitment live in a bubble. That wasn't the case. We knew what the world was like. We knew what our responsibility was to the world. And to this day, we still have a real passion for the people that are different, people that need help, people that are underprivileged of some sort. So we still have a real passion for that as well.
So you grew up there and you started a career. Tell the listeners a little bit about your experience starting work, what it was like to work as a foreman on the road and to start working in the family business at that time?
Well, it's pretty interesting. Your grandma and I were married very young. And when she got out of high school and I had 2 years of college, we got married in 1959. And at that point in time, there was not an option for us. We had to go to work. I had to go to work. And at that particular time, our organization was needing people. It was right after the big public works program in the United States, where there was a lot of opportunity in the construction world. And I was given responsibility way beyond my ability to go out and start to work. And without the help of a lot of employees that have been there for a while, I would have never succeeded. I had a lot of people that were very open to helping me learn and giving me the privilege to learn. And along with that, I was able to continue on and be responsible and satisfied that I was doing the work that they asked me to do.
Was there any early leaders or mentors that really grew you and helped you develop when you had extra responsibility starting your career? Anyone in particular that you remember?
Yeah, there was several, but to my knowledge and my memory bank, there were a few people that really helped me out. And I was asked to do a crushing job, be on a crushing operation. And one of the older, very experienced crusher guys was an individual by the name of John Mulder. And John wanted me to learn. And he gave me every opportunity to learn. And there was several others, but I'm just mentioning a few. There was another individual that had worked for our company from the time he was very young. And at that time, he was probably twice as old as I was. His name was Delmer Brink. And Delmer taught me everything he knew. And I got to be really good friends of his as well. And there was many others that helped me along in the business. The other thing is that the first generation, of which is my dad, my uncle Amos, and Hank Duininck, also give me the opportunity to excel. And they encouraged me as well. So that was fun.
Mm. Would you say that's the biggest factor of their help was encouragement? Or how did Delmer come alongside you to really grow you in more of a tangible way?
Well, encouragement and knowledge. And he was very considerate. I mean, if I didn't understand quite right, he had the patience to make sure that I understood.
From a young guy's perspective, how do you see the importance of that, of finding someone who's going to encourage you and pass along their knowledge as someone starts a career? Do you think that's invaluable? Or what encouragement would you give to someone my age thinking of how can I excel in life?
That's probably one of the most important ones, is somebody that's got the patience to recognize the fact that somebody has got a lot of ability and he's got a really good future out there, to bring him along as fast as you can, because it's not a competitive thing at that point. It's a thing of just giving these people the opportunity to see the things that you have experienced yourself, that you can explain to them, that you don't have to experience that if you listen. And encouragement is probably, between encouragement and good relationships, it goes a long ways to the success of the ones that you're trying to mentor.
Wow. Was there any failures at the beginning or experiences that you made a mistake or regrets?
I'm sure there were, yes. There were times, and we're all human to a certain extent, and our responses sometimes weren't as probably as timely and as smart as they should have been. And with those kind of situations, you always fall back a little bit with what you're trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. And learn from the mistakes.
Yeah.
So after you started working, you got so busy, you decided you needed a new mode of transportation.
Well,
Tell us about that.
That was interesting. There was a period of time when I was when my kids were growing up, that I was gone during the construction season, probably for the entire week, and only got home either on late Friday night or early Saturday. And it got to the point that your grandmother said, I wish we could do something different, that you could be home a little bit more. And a lot of my time was driving back and forth to the different projects that I was responsible for. And in 1976, I decided, she's right. If I fly an airplane, I can get home a little bit more and a little bit faster. So I discussed that with my partners, and they decided it was okay if I would do that. So I started to fly in 1976, and I flew for 26 years after that. And I was leaving early every morning. Sometime I'd get home at night. Sometime I'd have to stay out, no matter where it was. It was northern Minnesota or eastern North Dakota or the middle of South Dakota, where we had projects. So I would be home so much more after I made that decision, which helped a lot. One thing that was really interesting, my kids were growing up, and I would probably be in International Falls or in Baudette or something like that with the airplane. And my day there was pretty well done, so I would call Connie and I'd say, I'll be home about 6 o'clock. I'll fly over at that time we were living at the lake, and you put the kids out in the dock, and I'll be there around 6 o'clock. So then when I'll head to Wilmer, and by that time, once I've got the airplane in the hangar, I'll be home in about 45 minutes. And I can still see these kids at the end of the dock when I was flying over, recognizing the fact that I had been there. So
You must have buzzed them pretty low.
yeah, I did.
Do you think you could still do that today?
Yes. Yeah. Flying an airplane and riding a bicycle is about the same. You don't forget it.
When was the last time you sat behind the controls?
About 10 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you hope to ever get back?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind, but I haven't had the opportunity. So.
Yeah. Well, and you flew for 26 years, and why did you stop?
I got to the point where I started to lose some confidence. I decided that this was the time to quit.
Yeah.
And of course, we had our own pilot at that time. So if I wanted to go someplace, quite often, if I scheduled it ahead of time, I could still go. So.
Yeah. So during that time, do you have any stories about your airplane, about storms or things that happened, crazy landings?
No, not really.
You never had to land anywhere in a cornfield or anything like that?
No, I did not.
Well, you got lucky, because I've heard of guys that had to land on highways in northern Minnesota and stuff.
Well, when I started to fly, a lot of our work was in northern Minnesota, and my landing spot was on a county road. It wasn't on an airport. I'd land on a county road, and I'd push my airplane into a field approach, and someone would pick me up, and I'd spend the time I had to spend there, and then I'd take off on a county road again.
How do you make sure that people aren't coming? Do you just sight it out?
Well, you could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd be a little freaked out if I was driving on a county road and someone just touched down next to me. That'd be scary.
I had one incident you might have an interest in. I landed. I had a fellow that was working with me that was in Ada, Minnesota, which is up around Thief River Falls, and was in the Ada airport. It was a grass runway. It was not a hard surface runway. And he was doing a bunch of the procurement for me, so he had a bunch of gravel samples that I had to take back to our lab. And it was hot that day, really hot. And I checked the schedule as to whether I had enough runway to get out of there with the load that I had on, and I couldn't. So I called the county sheriff in Norman County, and I said, I got to get out of here. How can I get out of this airport? And he said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I said, I'll shut off Highway 200 for you. You get out on Highway 200. The airport was right next to it. And he got a sheriff's deputy on both ends. And I got out on the highway and took off on the highway.
And they gave you enough room. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, well, that's one I remember.
Yeah. So you have 4 kids, my dad and his brother Jason and Aunt Gina and Aunt Gay. What's it like to be a dad?
It's fun. It was fun. The kids are all different, of course, but they're all special. And we've had a great relationship with our kids. Yeah.
How do you think you influenced or impacted your kids, and maybe your sons or daughters specifically? It doesn't really matter, but one way of being a father that was unique to your style.
Well, I think that a lot of the success, certainly it takes 2, but a lot of the success to our family success was my wife. Yeah, Connie did a great job with these kids, and supported. She supported me when I was there, but she had a great influence on them in their younger years.
The one thing that I am pretty passionate about and like talking about a lot is purpose. And through all this crazy stuff that you did in your life and experiences and starting to run a business from a young age, how did you find your purpose, and what was that rooted in? And was there a moment where you think you found your purpose?
Well, that's an interesting question. My desire from a early standpoint was to make a difference in my life, but I didn't know for sure at that point in time what that really meant. But when I began to establish myself in the business world, that was one area that I wanted to make sure that I succeeded, but I knew that the only way that you're going to succeed in business is because of the people around you. And this has been a good share of my success, I think, at least I feel it has been, is that I was able to work with some really outstanding individuals that helped me in my vocation, but I also made sure that I treated them fairly. And I think that's been my ambition in my lifetime.
I've always seen you as someone who has such a strong sense of community in Princeburg specifically, and also in Wilmer and Kandiwai County in this area. You really support where your feet are and what's local. Talk about some initiatives or things that you've done through the company to plant your roots a little deeper in your own community, and also the importance of that.
Well, it's really important, I think, in a community, smaller community like we grew up in and we lived in for quite a long period of time, and we were living in a growing community. Along with that, it takes people to support one another, and whether it's a local business or whether it's local incentives or initiatives, it's important that those get supported by local people. And one thing is that if you are dealing with local people that know who you are and what your ambitions are and what your long-term thinking is in regards to the community, not only for yourself but for the community, and that's recognized, it's a real pleasure to be part of that.
Mm-hmm. No, it's super cool. It's almost a little more fulfilling if it's in your own community and supporting your own employees and friends and family, and I think that's really neat. I think that's super cool to see how you have come alongside the local school in Princeburg. Do you want to talk a little bit about the uniqueness of CMCS and your support in that role?
Well, the interesting part of that is that that school has been there for over 100 years, quite a few over 100. My mother graduated from the 8th grade at CMCS.
To preface for listeners that don't know, CMCS is the Christian private school in Princeburg, Minnesota. And I believe it's the only independent school district in the state of Minnesota that is a private school. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's interesting. In 1973, the state of Minnesota decided that if you didn't have a secondary education, a public secondary education, that you had to consolidate with the nearest school district that did. And at that particular time, I, along with a friend of mine, got involved with that process at the state level. And at that time, we had a representative by the name of Wally Gustafson that was out of our district. Princeburg was part of his district from the city of Willmar, basically, or Kansas County. And he seen what was going on as far as consolidation was concerned. And he took that as an issue to the legislature at that time, along with a few of us from that community. And we got a legislation set up that if you educated a percentage, I forget exactly what it was, of students within that school district, you were exempt from consolidation. And that's still true today.
And that's how they overcame that.
Yeah, that's how it is.
It's pretty amazing to see CMCS is kind of a beacon of light in that area. It's just so unique to rural Minnesota in comparison to, it's not like it's any better or worse than the other schools, but it's just so different to have an independent Christian school in rural Minnesota. How do you think that continues to work? You said that happened in the mid-70s. Was that correct?
Well, that's when the consolidation.
And it's been 50 years from now, and it's continuing to be the same. How do you find such a longevity in such a small community of thought and the continuous of the process of supporting a private school?
Well, the parents that are sacrificing to send their, when I say sacrifice, I'm not sure that's the right word, but are sending their children to this school are so dedicated to that type of education that they're willing to support it. Mm-hmm. And there's a wide range of support out of that community and others right now that are sending their children to that system.
How do you think private education influenced yourself? Because you attended as well.
Well, first of all, the public education throughout Minnesota that I know of has been effective for a lot of people. There's no question about that. Without public education, you'd probably find that there would be some deficits out there. But the people that have chosen to use the private education and the dedication that they have to support it are extremely satisfied. Mm-hmm. But it does take substantial dedication and sacrifice on the part of parents to put their children through that system.
Mm-hmm. So as a young guy, talking to an entrepreneur, someone who has ran their own business and really been the owner of something and working to grow it, how do you encourage young people that are hoping to start something on their own and really make something of value for themselves?
Don't be afraid of a challenge, because when you start with ideas, there's always a certain amount of uncertainty, and you've got to have a certain amount of real desire to get out and take a risk, and that's I think that's the pretty much what happens to entrepreneurs. That there's a risk factor but a risk factor they're not necessarily afraid of, because the opportunity beyond that is really great.
Do you think that anyone can be an entrepreneur, or do you think that's a special set of people that are willing to accept that risk factor?
I think it's a special mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how do you think that is developed, or do you think that is natural?
I'm not sure I can answer that. I don't know. I think it's a desire to do something that looks like it's probably very difficult, but you still have a fire in your belly to do it. And I think you find that if you talk to entrepreneurs, that they're going to say that, I didn't realize how difficult this was going to be, but I managed to stick with it.
Mm-hmm. I've seen you mentor a lot of people in my life, whether it's just a few times or just being nice to someone or continuously meeting with someone over a period of time, talking about business, talking about a faith. And I've really seen you open to that. But I think that's something that a lot of young people or people my age are striving for or looking for, would like in their lives. How do you think someone like me could find a mentor, could find someone that would be willing to encourage them and kind of inspire them with leadership values? Is that just asking, or where do you think they could go to maybe find someone like that?
Well, I think people are looking toward and to somebody that they feel has had some success in their life, somebody that's been fair with their thinking, and if they're in that position and cannot find somebody that will touch them on occasion and give them some encouragement, they're probably going to be distracted in their thoughts. But I think the important part of if you're talking about mentoring at this point in time, the important part is don't dismiss anybody. Everybody has got a potential. And if you got somebody that needs a touch or needs some encouragement, take that opportunity. Take it every time you see it, because you don't know what kind of effect that's going to have.
Mm-hmm. I think that the question comes from when we talk about challenge and risk and entrepreneurs stepping into that. It's like you said, don't be afraid of the challenge. That is scary. It's scary for young people. And I think it's so important to have the insightful, older, more experienced character to step alongside and encourage. And I just encourage all the listeners and people. I've just seen an invaluable amount of value come out of our relationship together, and just being able to ask you about your experiences and questions like these that have really influenced my thought process and my leadership, and encouraged me to step into things that were scary, were challenging, were risky, because of your encouragement. And I think that's really valuable for someone, like you said, to find and to be seeking someone that is willing to come alongside. But it's also important for older people like yourself and more experienced people like yourself to be willing to give the insight and to spend the time and to take the time away from their busy schedules to raise up the next generation and encourage people.
Yeah, well, that's certainly important, because that's what's coming behind us. And if these kids are people that are looking for encouragement, and those of us that are out there could give it and don't, we're missing the mark.
What do you think of the future? Do you think that we are set up for success, or what do you think? I hear mixed things from older people.
I think there's so much opportunity out there yet. And, I've gone through grandparents that told me that the world was changing so fast, and I'm really concerned about you, whether you're going to have the same opportunity. Well, that certainly was a concern of theirs, but it certainly did not happen that way. Mm-hmm. I mean, things continue to go on, and I think you got to be careful you don't get negative about that, about the future. There's a lot of things that are different. There's a lot of things that are much different than when I grew up. And I think that to a certain extent, the kids that are thinking and are aware of their surroundings are navigating that pretty well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things out there that if you make the wrong choice, it doesn't take very long to get into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make the right choice, then you're on the right track to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
It's full. There's more choices today for young people like you and others than there was for me, for instance. Mm-hmm. I didn't have the same. We didn't have the same issues that were going on today.
How do you view your life?
Thankful. I'm thankful.
Have you always been thankful?
I think at the most part, life changes sometimes. Circumstances get in the way of being thankful at times. But when you think of life in general, I'm more thankful than I am unthankful.
Mm-hmm. I think that's unique because I don't think everyone is thankful. And I think some people can get, including myself, get caught up in striving for more and always having kind of the opposite perspective of, instead of I'm thankful for what I have, I look at what I could have or who I could be or what I could be doing or who I could have or whatever it might be. Have you ever dealt with that perspective?
That's an interesting comment. I think that it's in our nature to thrive for more, and you should do that. You should try for more. But if there's more success, if you're talking about success in a lot of different areas, then you should be thankful enough to share that.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think your thankfulness flows from?
Well, I think it's from your convictions, basically. And some of those are innate, some of those are not, they're learned. But I think if we can live a thankful life, you're going to find that life will be a lot more meaningful.
Mm-hmm. What kind of value do you see in family-owned businesses and in small-owned businesses? I know in your lifetime, that's one thing, talking about change, that has changed a lot, is there was a lot more small businesses in the 40s, 50s, and 60s than there is today, including like Grandma Connie's family-owned grocery store. That's no longer a thing. And I think things are changing so much more corporate and into large investment firms and things like that. What's the value that you've seen in growing a business yourself?
Well, I think that to a great degree, there's been a lot of individuals that have built some great businesses. And they've done very well for themselves and for their families. But they didn't probably think so much about a succession plan in regards to where do I want this thing to go, at what level, and to what expense. And, and that's a choice that you got to make as a family business. And our family now has been in business for 100 years in 1926. And I know that it was the desire of our fathers, the people that started the business, to continue into the next generation. And I know that the second generation had a real desire to continue on into the third generation. And now we're in the third generation in our company. And now it's extending out into the fourth generation. So it was a desire and a succession plan to continue with that as well as we could. And as the organization grew and as the generations behind us started to grow, if they showed an interest, to keep doing that. Mm-hmm. So that's basically, I think, the way our organization has continued.
How do you think that's important to like the broader economy or community to have family-owned and small businesses?
I do, from the standpoint, corporations come and go, Corporations probably last a little bit longer, but there we see so much transition going on in corporations too today that pretty soon you really start to lose your identity.
Mm-hmm. And the bottom line is almost different. They're striving for profits. Every company is trying to be profitable. Do you see that differently in family businesses compared to
no,
the ones that have to speak towards their shareholders?
Profitability still has to be a part of
every business.
Continuation, yeah.
Have you found value in faith in the workplace?
Yeah, that's interesting. You have an opportunity, if you're a person of faith, to certainly extend that out in different ways to people, to express it to different people. As far as direct ministry from a standpoint of that, I have never experienced that, but I have tried to do it as much as I could by example. Mm-hmm. And the interesting part of that is that people catch on to that it's different.
How did you emulate that? What were some practical or tangible ways that you were?
Well, one of the things that I think is important is to have a relationship and be concerned about your employee, mm-hmm. or the people that you're working with, or the people around you, and somehow make it clear to them that you have a concern about that. And you don't have to get deep into it. You just got to give them an idea that if they need any help at any time, that you're available.
Have you ever had anyone take you up on that?
Yes.
Can you share that story?
They're pretty confidential, so I don't know that I want to do that. Yeah. But I'll tell you what, it's extremely gratifying to be able to come alongside somebody and they start to see the goodness of what you're trying to tell them, and their lives begin to change. Yeah.
It grows a relationship.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about Grandma wanting you to be home more and leading such a busy life and working so hard. How did that affect your relationship? And how are you able to continue that for, is it 66 years now?
Yeah.
I don't think many people can say they've been married for 66 years. So that's pretty special. What was the way that you continued even when it was tough?
Well, she was very tolerant. The first thing I want to say. And she knew that this is something that, at least for the first period of time in my life, she knew that I had to do that because that was what I desired to do. The other thing is I had, and we did, have a tremendous respect for one another. And we never violated that. And if there was a special need, we always made sure there was time for that. Mm-hmm. So that's one area of life when I'm to this point in my life that I'm extremely thankful for. That through the ups and the downs of life, we were able to navigate that in nice shape.
Do you know anyone that's over 66 years? Do you have any friends? Are you and Grandma in the?
Not 60. I've got a lot of friends that are still living, of course, but they're somewhat younger than I am. But I do have a few of them that are a little bit older that I speak with quite often, and those were pretty much industry related people. Yeah.
Was there anyone in particular that you viewed their marital relationship and that kind of influenced, or they were maybe a mentor to you in the relationship, or you saw how they went about that, and that's something that inspired you?
Well, I seen that with our parents. Yeah.
And how does having, that kind of relationship affect you?
Well, you got to realize that our parents probably navigated that differently than we do, but they dedicated more time to their job. They were building a business in 1926 to about 1950 some, to where they really got the business going well. But that took a lot of dedication, a lot of their time away as well. Although their geographic area at that time was much smaller than it was for the second generation. Once the second generation took over in the business, the geographic area for the work that we did was in a much larger area.
What's one thing that you remember that your dad taught you?
Oh, my dad, he was a interesting guy. He demanded a lot of work. I mean, when he went to work, and when he told you what to do, he expected that would get done. And he was a very determined person, and put timetables on you. From a standpoint of, I remember working for him, and he'd have 5 or 6 guys. Our company at that time was much smaller, of course, and 5 or 6 guys working for him, and he would always buy him dinner at 11:30 and he wanted to get dinner before the crowds come in, if we were working on a city project, especially. And he would arrange with the restaurant owner that we'd be in there with 5 or 6 guys at 11:30, and dinner better be ready for us. And he'd order what they were going to eat. And if we weren't done in a half an hour, he didn't like that very well. Well, the first time that happened to me with him is that I wasn't done yet with eating whatever I was given. And he looked and he said, "How come you're not done yet?" And I said, "Well, I'll be done in a little bit." He said, "Well, I'll tell you what, we've got to go to work. When you get done, you can walk to the job." And anyhow, that taught me after that to make sure that I ate fast.
Yeah.
No, he was a great guy. He was a great guy. He demanded a lot, but he was a very forgiving and giving individual.
Was it tough being the oldest
in my family?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Was he harder on you than the other ones?
I don't think so.
No,
not
as much. How about your mom? What did she teach you?
My mom. She was. My mom was a smart lady, and although she only went through the 8th grade in her life, she was she was just smart. She was self-educated. And, at that time, very few people went to college at that age. Some went to high school, but not many there neither. But no, she was a great lady.
If you want your life to be remembered for something, what do you want it to be?
Well, I want it to be. I hope that people will remember me for being honest, for being thankful, for being caring, and being right.
What does that mean?
What does it mean to be right?
Yeah.
Basically, the decisions you make in life were the decisions that were honorable, and yeah.
Wow. I think that's really special. As you've gotten older, how has that changed, or how do you view, maybe how have you viewed your life as differently? Seeing your time, I kind of view it as a lot of people my dad's age and something talk about the second half of their life. They kind of look at life a different way. There's almost like a thought process called the second half, and it's a different view, or like the next 50, different view of life. Is that something that's hit you, or do you still sometimes feel like the young cowboy you once were?
I have never considered the first or second half of life. I think life is life.
Yeah.
And if you have the capabilities mentally and physically to do things, I think you have an obligation to still make a difference. And that difference usually is in the area that you're familiar with. I mean, it's hard to start a new vocation at 70 years old.
But do you see your older years as an opportunity to make more of a difference because of the relationships that you've built? Obviously compared to someone who's 21 like myself, the financial means that you've had over your life, and just the avenues that you can make a difference. Have you emulated that differently than when you were younger? Well,
you got to remember that your physical capability when you get older is not like it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have the same opportunity. You got the same opportunity, but not the same desire to do the same thing you did all the time. But there are still real opportunities out there that you can certainly have an influence on. And if you recognize what they are, whether it be on a job or whether it be just in the area of service, those are things that come available to you. And I don't know. I've often tried to just stay up on what was going on, to stay current with what's going on, and try to be an influence in an area that I can be in.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Has that gotten difficult as you've gotten older to stay up to date on those things?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
What do you do to keep your mind sharp and to stay on top of that stuff? Do you like to read books, or?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. I do some reading, but not a lot. I do some reading. I'm really concerned about current events and what's happening in our world. I keep up on that, of course. I do keep up to a certain extent with industry issues,
Mm-hmm.
That I've been involved with my entire life, but not to the extent that I did 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I think it's really valuable to sit down and ask some really deep and meaningful questions about who you are as a person. And we know each other so well, but I think some of the questions I asked today, I'd never even asked before. And to have this avenue to hear those things and learn from you a little bit has been an honor.
Yeah. Well, certainly you haven't asked me those kinds before, and I was not surprised about the fact that you might do that, because your mind is always active with futuristic type things and things that you probably didn't have knowledge of, and I hope that I was able to answer those to the extent that made some sense.
Yeah, no, I think you did. Is there anything you'd like to share to the audience or the guests before we sign off?
Well,
we kind of call it the last pebble. If you want to throw out a piece of encouragement, advice, tell one more story, or we can just sign off from here.
Well, the only thing that I think of, and if you're interviewing somebody that's a lot older than you are, of course, and there are people that are going to probably be listening that are older as well. And I think the encouragement for those and for others is that we still have an opportunity to make a difference in our lifetime, even though that we're in the last phase of our life. And take every opportunity that you have to make a difference in somebody else's life.
I think you're an amazing example of using your time effectively to help people around you, to enhance your community, and to continue to fulfill your purpose of making a difference around you. And thank you for stepping into that each and every day, even as you get older. There's so many ways that you can continue to make a difference. And that's one of our passions and purposes for the One Pebble podcast, is to bring out people from the community that are making a difference, big and small, in ways that are seen and unseen, but to just share those stories, because we live in such a different world right now that can be dark. It can be sad and disappointing, but there is people doing great things, and that's super encouraging to me. And to hear your story has been a pleasure. So thank you so much. This was Harris and Harris Duininck on the One Pebble podcast today. We will see you guests next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been the One Pebble podcast. One pebble, so many ripples. What will you do to make a difference?